I was 8 years old. I was deathly ill. I can't breathe. The body was dead. It just starts lighting up and brighter, bright, so bright it should have blinded me. I had a life review, and at 8 years old, what are you going to review? But I start seeing this panorama, this unfolding like a movie. Apparently, it's my life. This is my life going forward. And I see myself in high school. I'm meeting my future wife. I envisioned the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I saw how it happened and everything. It's the whole story. And I see myself in Vietnam from the position behind a machine gun on a helicopter. So I had all these things going in the future. And it ended, apparently, 50 years later, where I actually go to Babaji's cave in India. So now we are 50 years later. I retired. I'm in the hospital. I'm having quadruple bypass surgery. He says, you're going to be kept alive by machines. We got to kill you first before we can save you. And next thing I know, I'm in the light. I'm not naked anymore. I got clothes on, but I'm standing at that Shiva's temple in southern India. The exact time I was predicted to be there.
Still have questions? Well, join me live for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll answer your questions, and you might see a familiar face. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Reverend Bill McDonald, who had a very unusual near-death experience when he was 8 years old. And he believes that the key to your life and your success is built on you figuring out how to love yourself. He also had 2 other near-death experiences, incredible in and of themselves. And he had a direct encounter with Babaji. And if you don't know who that is, I feel like you were actually drawn to this video on purpose. So get ready. We are going very deep today. So Bill, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm excited to hear this guy you're bringing on. Oh, that's
I know. So listen, before you tell your near-death experience, this happens to me all the time with the guests. I feel like my life is full of signs and synchronicities, and I want to share with the audience what happened yesterday regarding you. I had some time and I wanted to listen to a podcast, and I have a ton of people I'm subscribed to. So normally YouTube feeds you what you're subscribed to. Well, I saw a very interesting thumbnail that said a guy sees 50 years into his future near-death experience. I'm like, I got to listen to this. So I listen, and as I'm listening, I keep thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to have this guy on my show. I've got to have this guy on my show. I listen to a second interview. I'm doing the same thing. Man, I got to have this guy on my show. This guy's incredible. And then later on in the afternoon, I see an email, and I'm like, Reverend Bill, confirming, hey, the link for my Zoom call tomorrow. I don't schedule my interviews. My sister does. And she uses her intuition and who she reaches out to. So imagine my surprise when the guy that I'm like, I've got to get on my show is you that I was interviewing today. This all happened yesterday. So there are no accidents. I feel like my life is proof of that.
Well, there you go. And there are no yesterdays.
There are no yesterdays because everything's happening all at once.
It's all at once. So that is an ongoing process. And then, of course, my newest book, I remember tomorrow I take that step one farther. You know, I'm almost 80 years old, right? I can walk into a room looking for my glasses, right? And they'll be like this. Like, where's my glasses, right? I'm looking for keys or why I walked into the kitchen. But I do remember tomorrow much clearer than I do the moment I'm in or yesterday. So,
which is incredible. So that's actually a perfect segue into you had this near-death experience as a result of kidney failure when you were only 8 years old, and you wound up spending an entire year almost in seclusion at a hospital, which I think was predestined by you so that you could build on and become who you are now. So I would love to start there and have you tell that near-death experience in any way you'd like to share it.
okay, realize, because we're going to condense a little bit. This is a bridge edition because we'd never have enough time to talk about all these experiences. But at 8.5 years old, I was literally, when I say deathly ill, I was deathly ill. Started off with the mumps, and then the mumps led to strep throat. The strep throat and the mumps led to a lung infection, double pneumonia, and then my kidneys started failing. And then it was about 6 different diseases, all from the mumps. People don't realize these childhood diseases lead to more serious things. So finally, I was taken to a doctor after I'm practically dead. And the doctor goes, God, this kid's, he's probably not going to make it. He needs to be in the hospital. So they dropped me off in a hospital, a little kid, 8 years old, never been away from home by myself. They strapped me in a gurney. My stepdad and my mom waved goodbye. And I'm wheeled off into a hospital that I don't really get back home for a year. I'm being wheeled off. That's it. Can you imagine today now, you take a kid to the hospital, you're outside the room. If they're going to operate on him, you're there. You're sleeping in the couch next to nothing. It was a county hospital. Basically, they took charge of me. I'd see my parents once a week, if I was lucky, 5, 10, 15 minutes on a Sunday. That was it. And so that meant I was blessed with the opportunity to live a monk life existence. We'll talk about that later. So first night in the hospital, my lungs are filled up. I can't breathe. They're filled. Foreseen. I heard the expression. It's filled with fluids. And I hear they're talking about me like I'm a third person, like I'm not even there. Yeah, this kid, I'm going to sit right there. And this kid looked like they brought him in too late, but going, if I'm right here, don't tell, they're giving up on me, all right. So they pull some stuff out of my lungs and they put me in this isolation ward, turn the lights off. Nobody to hold my hand. Nobody to say good night. Nobody to say, how do you feel, kid? Nothing. Just boom, there you are. And everybody walks away. And there I am, 100% all alone. Except in my world, I know I'm never alone. Never. But physically devoid of family and friends. And then I'm in great pain. And I'm laying there in the darkness. And all of a sudden, the pain is so great. And nothing. Bless. It was like, it's over. And then I noticed my body's feeling meanness both ways. Light weight, light. So I'm feeling light within and around me. I'm like a feather. I have no substance. I'm just film of my consciousness. Someplace along the line, I expired. The body was dead. I'm aware of the body. To say I'm looking is crazy because I don't have eyes. I'm just a consciousness looking. I'm sensing. I'm seeing. I see this body, this little boy, all looking terrible, and I'm going, well, thank God that's not me. I'm the body. And that's at 8 years old. I have the philosophical bent to realize that that's not me. Never was me. The me is the observer. The me is this cosmic connection with the one consciousness. Now, I probably didn't use language like that at that age, obviously. But that's basically what I was. It was like, I'm good. I felt good, felt comfortable, and the room starts getting room. I'm in a room anymore. But all around me, it's like clouds, and it just starts lighting up and brighter, so bright it should have blinded me. And then, since I was 8 years old, you interview people on near-death experiences, and most of them will tell you, well, I went to a dark tunnel, life review. At 8 years old, what are you going to review? It's like, you haven't done nothing, right? So, but I start seeing this panorama, this unfolding like a movie. Oh, apparently it's my life. I sense that right away. This is my life going forward. I see myself in high school. I'm meeting my future wife, who I'm still married to. Over 55 years, I don't know how many more. At least 55 years. We met in 1960. She was mere child of 14 as I was. And now I'm married to a great grandmother. So it shows you what life gives you if you around long enough. So anyway, so all of a sudden I see these images, these scenes taking place. And it makes me realize two things. One, I'm identifying that's me in those scenes. That's future, which means I'm going to be dead. I got to go back to that body and live those. I see myself in high school, vision the assassination of Kennedy. I saw how it happened and everything. And when I was in high school, jumping ahead, when I was in high school, 3 weeks before he was shot, I told the principal, I go, hey, they're going to shoot the president in Dallas, Texas. Okay, kid, yeah, so that really. Yeah. So, I go, no, I insisted. I got really anxious for 3 weeks before. Because I'd seen it all. I'd seen the little son saluting and the horse cart, the whole thing. And I saw how he was killed. And what's interesting is I talked about my vision of the JFK assassination. And, well, Facebook and YouTube put warning labels. Warning. There's an official assassination report from the Warren Commission. This conflicts with it. Like it's false. I'm going, what? I'm telling the story what I see. And they're labeling this thing with a link to the Warren Commission because I said there was more than one shooter. So what do I know? I only saw it in person. Right there it was. And I see myself in Vietnam for the position behind a machine gun, a helicopter. Didn't know what kind it was. It was a Huey. I could tell later on, but it was shaped that looks like a tadpole. And I remember all these things that happened in Vietnam. Then, of course, when I went to Vietnam, oh, this guy's going to get killed. That airplane's going to get shot down. Okay, and I disobeyed direct orders and was going to be court-martialed, but I saved 30-something because I didn't know I'm fired. That's still an old story. But so I had all these things going in the future. And it ended, apparently, 50 years later, where I actually go to Babaji's cave in India. When I was 8 years old, my mother had read to me an autobiography of a yogi. And I really loved that story. There's a story in there. There's a chapter on Babaji's cave. And, I got to find it. I don't know where it's at. And there was no tours to it back then. They kept it a secret for decades. But I said, I'm going there because in vision forward, I'm sitting in the cave. Go, no. But that's the sequence I see. So finally, after I see that sequence, all of a sudden I feel myself being drawn back to this body. Boom, I'm back in the body. I'm in pain. I'm uncomfortable. And I began my 1-year apprenticeship as a bunk, as a captive at a county hospital. So I was in bed every day and had to make the best use of my time. And so to me, I'm going, well, you know what? If you had all the time in the world, what would you do if you were me? Well, if you had all the time in the world, if you were me, I'd be meditating, I'd be praying, and I was making up my own meditation techniques. I was doing things like pushing my eyes so I could see my spiritual eye, and I was visualizing energy coming through my navel and up my spine. And I was just making stuff up, quote unquote, making stuff up. Years later, 50 years later, when I went to India and went to Babaji's cave, I discovered that all these things I thought I'd made up, I was being taught by a Tibetan monk who couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Tibetan. And he was showing me all these techniques. I go, wait a minute. I've been doing that since I'm 8 years old. So all these things I thought I made up actually were in Tibetan or yoga, something. But they were all old techniques I was using. I learned those on my own lane and visualizing energy, visualizing light coming into I didn't know that chakras and all that. I visualized light coming in the top of my head and then lighting up my spine. And I realized, because I read the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is an organization that Paramount Yogananda organized, and he wrote the book on yoga. But it is lessons teaching you to meditate and everything. They have a section, they teach you what they call recharging exercises, which is using dynamic tension, tightening, pulling energy, visualizing. And that's what you did before you meditated, because it was something meditation. And I'm laying there at 8 years old thinking, well, if that helps your meditation, and I'm not, if I use that same technique and recharge my body, even though I'm laying in bed, I can't get up. So I'm just tightening up and tensing and pulling energy. Well, I was never supposed to get out of the hospital. This was going to be like an incurable disease. It was, kidneys were dead. Everything was. And I said, no, I'm going to use this energy to heal me when I get out of the hospital. And so I started practicing that. And then when I was released from the hospital, just a week or two later, I had an experience with my dog. It ran out of the house, it ran in front of a speeding car. It was going 40 miles an hour in front of my house, and it got flattened. And it pop, I hear the sound. I go out there, and the dog is like flat. His tongue, there's blood coming out of both sides of his mouth, blood coming out of the nose, blood coming out of the eyes, the tear ducts, blood coming out of the ears. I mean, major hit. And I pick him up, and I'm so filled with love for this dog. And I believed that giving this dog love infused with this energy technique I've just created and discovered and made up, if I combine the two, I could save my dog. It wasn't a question of it. It was, this is what I'm going to do. This dog was seconds away from death. I put it in my lap, and I just put my hands on it, visualize the energy coming through the top of my head, coming through my spine and out my hands and my fingers. And it was like static electricity coming out of my hands. It was like, and there was little sparks from the fingertips into the dog's head and body. And the dog cried out, because it was shocked. And then it jumped off my lap, ran around, lived for years, never took it to the veterinarian. So that's when I knew that focused love, really loving and caring for something else. I don't care if it's a flower, a person, a tree, whatever it is. Love has healing energy, the greatest healing energy. And combine that with yoga techniques. At that time, I didn't even know what I was doing was yoga. I was just my own technique. So I took that with me and healed other small animals and plants and stuff. Practice on the little stuff first. And then at 18, I graduated high school in Silicon Valley, California, Sunnyvale. And 24 hours after I graduated high school, I got my surfboard, an airplane, flew to Hawaii because I had to be in Hawaii. I had to be in Hawaii. And, got there a couple of days, had no money, ran out of money, of course. And I had this Kahuna. For people that are not familiar with Kahuna religion, think of like shamans, think of Native American traditions, indigenous people. We're talking potions, ceremonies, all kinds of stuff. But the Kahuna religion is also based on the principle of self-love, self-forgiveness. That's the part that I don't get. They're in this new Ho'oponopono, it's like, oh, they're discovering this stuff. But this was like early 1960, in the 60s, early 60s. And I was learning this stuff, not realizing that what I was learning was more powerful than I thought. Because I was already knowing how to heal people and do things. The Kahuna says, I'm going to teach you how to heal people. And he tells me the first thing you got to know is how to love yourself and how to forgive yourself. I go, come on, And then I realized decades later, everything I've ever done in my life is based on that principle of foundation of self-love and self-forgiveness and gratitude. Anyway, so that's one direction. So meanwhile, I'm living my life and realizing that I've seen 50 years into the future. So it's not like every day I wake up and plan the whole week out. It's like you get these things just before. Oh, I need to know this now. I met my wife, and she was in high school going, listen, Mary, crazy. I said, no, this is going to happen. And I knew I was going to go to Vietnam. I knew I had to do all these things. But it was still a painful life. A lot of stuff happened. I got blown up in Vietnam. I got shot by a machine. I was in 5, 6, 7 helicopter crashes. It was tragic. Everything could happen, but I had a knowing before, so I was always fairly safe. Then, 50 years later, we'll skip to the next.
Hold on. Before we go to the second near-death experience, I want to ask you some questions about this first one.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, so much for sharing these stories with everybody. I think that there are so many nuggets in here, especially about the self-love and just understanding and how you've based your whole life on that. But what is intriguing to me the most, I think, about this story is that 1 year that you spent in isolation and how you taught yourself things. So I have a question I want to ask you, and I've talked about this a couple times with other NDEers before. I too remember being about 8 years old and doing this practice where I would sit in front of my parents' dresser and they had squares within squares, and I would take my fingers and press them on my eyes and put light pressure, and I would see like this whole thing happen, but it was in conjunction with a question that would run through my mind over and over. I'm 8 years old or 7 years old or 9. I'm not older than that because we moved from this house by the time I was 9. And the question was the same. What is nothing? What if not, but nothing is something? What is nothing? Nothing is something. And just over and over and over in my mind. And you had a very similar experience. What in the world is that? What have you understood in your 80 years of living on the planet? What did you bring in? Because you brought something with you, and I think I did too, but I don't fully understand it. Or my question was, what if there is nothing? And then the answer was nothing is something. That was the question. What if there is nothing? Nothing is something.
You can't destroy energy, right? It just changes shape and everything else. So I'd narrow it down to something else. Let's get philosophical and say.
I love it.
All right, so we're all made in God's image. So what is it mean? It's like, oh, God's this old guy up there with a beard. And I'm going on God's this, God's that, God's Jesus, God's book. I'm telling people the only thing that's true in the universe is love. So love is the womb of creation. Everything that's ever been created is created or will be created, will be kissed by this divineness of love. So God is love, and God occupies this consciousness, this one consciousness. Consciousness doesn't have a body. It's just a consciousness, right? But we, in everybody and everything, is a part of that one consciousness. Meaning, there's nothing separate from you. There's nothing separate from God. There's nothing separate from love itself. And when you're radiating love and giving love and becoming love and sharing love and extending love to others, you are feeling the divine presence. You are filling your body with love and love. And the essence is the body of the divine cosmic consciousness. It's love. So, yeah, I listen to these people all the Big Bang. What was before the Big Bang? I used to ask people when I was a kid. If I went to India, I asked that question. I said, well, before the Big Bang, was there yesterday? I mean, it had to be before, just by the virtue of the definition. Before the Big Bang, you had something, right? What was there, right? So anyway, so we are here thinking that we have this life, believing that we are Reverend Bill, you're Laurie. It's like we have an identity. And if we have an identity, we have a personal history. And if you have personal history, then you have an ego because you have this identity. And the ego is that delusionary source that separates you from the divine. It makes you feel separate. That's why people say, praying to God. I go, well,
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you're saying this. I just had this conversation last week.
yeah, people always, it's always outside of them.
Yes, because then you're separate if it's outside of you.
So I don't believe everything in the scriptures because I think there's a lot of mythology, there's a lot of misinterpretation, there's translations, there's all kinds of stuff in people's opinions. But I do believe the one place in the Bible where Jesus tells people the kingdom of God is within. Think about it. Everything is within. The whole cosmos, all in creation, everything's within. This is the temple of God. Your consciousness, which is just a reflection of the one. So that's why it's important for self-love, because when you love yourself, you're really loving God, because God is yourself. And when you're loving yourself and you're loving God, then you have to love your neighbor, because that's a reflection of God. And if you have to love your neighbor, then you have to love your enemy. It all makes sense. You don't have to like your enemy, to like anybody, but you got to love her. Because so what? What are you going to do? Well, I hate this part of I hate this finger, so I'm going to cut it off. Curse that finger.
I use the arm example of this, of like, somebody's going to get thrown in hell. It's like taking your arm and severing it and throwing it. It can't go anywhere. It can't not be a part of you.
So since everything's made in God's image, think about with the Heavenly Father, if that's what you believe in, the Heavenly Father loves you so much, in divine grace, love, and compassion, the God you believe in believes in all that stuff. And yet you believe in a God that's going to send these people to hell because they're the wrong religion. They're Muslim. They're Buddhist. They're Hindu. My God, they're Mormons or whatever it is. Every religion thinks they're the only one. And people get stuck on dogma and scripture. And everybody's got a different version. Everybody says their scripture is correct. 100% this is. And how do you prove it? Well, it says right there, it's written by God. Well, how do you argue with that, right? So, but it's everybody's interpretation of the same thing, and you many meanings. So I tell people, I don't care what religion you are. If whatever you're doing makes you happy, great. If it's about love, great. If you're not judging others and trying to kill other people off and don't believe your way, great. God don't have no religion. So whatever religion you have, it honors the divine. Everybody's happy. And, you got to think about this. Jesus was not a Christian. I wasn't a Christian. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Muhammad wasn't a Muslim. All these people came after them and invented these religions, all these isms. But all they had to do was just listen to the divine source, which is just, it's all about love. It's all about love. There is nothing else. So, and the divine essence boils down to, there's nothing, there is something. You can hit that argument all day long. I'm telling you, the only thing that's real is love. And what's interesting, when you were a child and you push your eyes, so I used to do that. You can do that now. And it's like 4th of July in there. It's just everything lights. It's just really beautiful stuff. When you're a little kid, you got nothing to do all day. You can do focus and pray and concentrate and focus and all that stuff.
My mom would tell me not to do it.
But
My mom would be like, don't do that.
no, that was an exercise that I learned later that some religions and organizations like SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship, got a little board, put your elbows on it, an elbow board, and you put your fingers there and you push it so it's focused here. Close your ears,
You're blowing my mind. Do you think that we just came in with that information and it was just pushed away as we were integrated into the human experience?
Yeah, well, it's this. There's nothing new. When you learn something, you remember something.
Mm.
Learning is only remembering. And everything out there, since there's no past, present, the future, is all one thing in this cosmic consciousness. Answers to everything. With somebody discovers a new thing, right? Discovers a theory of relativity. Well, this guy discovers gravity. And I'm thinking, well, we had gravity before the guy discovered it, right? Native Americans, they were in North America. They didn't have to be discovered by Columbus. It's like, we haven't discovered it, it ain't there. So when it comes to the consciousness, we can tap it anywhere we want on that. That's why when Edison was making the light bulb, there was probably 20 guys that were trying to patent it around the same couple of months there. It was coming to guys in Russia, in Germany, and all kinds of countries. Everybody's working on that same thing. All these great inventions, it's just somebody just, it's in the hands of the divine, and all you got to do is tap into it when you're ready, and when the consciousness is ready to receive. On an individual basis, there's great ones out there that think everything they want, but as a culture, as a race of people on this planet, we're evolving, even though it doesn't look like it when you watch the news. We are evolving. We are moving forward. We're just going through some nasty times right now. But if you get hung up on, it's like, what I've heard stories on this, and it happened to me. So I'm telling the story first person, but I've also saw it in a movie later, and I thought, oh, that's what that was about. So I'm in India. I'm in Calcutta. Now I'm standing there in the corner, and it was garbage, and it was human. It was just terrible. The river was polluted. I'm just going, oh, jeez. And then there's this yogi guy walking. He was just really happy. Don't you smell all this? And he says, he points down the street. He says, see those jasmine flowers? It was like 2 blocks away. He says, I'm focusing on the smell. I'm focusing on the jasmine flowers as I walk through life. It could be anything positive. You just focus on. He says, if you focus on the garbage, he says, that's all you're going to see is garbage. If you focus on the flowers, you'll find flowers everywhere you go. So that was my first trip. And I'm going, oh, that's kind of cool. I got to write this one down. Right? That's kind of cool, right? So now we are 50 years later. I retire from the post office. I go back to Vietnam, which is the whole story after fighting the war there. I go to Machu Picchu, and I go to Bolivia, Peru. Then I finally go, you know what? I've been waiting 50 years. My next trip, I'm going to India. So I go to India, 58 and a half years old. I go, well, that's interesting, 58 and a half. It's 50 years after my near-death experience. And I'm up in the Himalayas, and I go to Babaji's cave. A real hard time finding it. And my heart was pounding. I'm sweating, just sick, and I meditate. And I'm leaving Babaji's cave. And that's all. That's the last thing I've ever remembered going forward. That was the thing. I'm going, oh, what happens now, right? Like, oh, that was it, right? And I'm standing on a cliff, 30-foot cliff, and I'm getting dizzy. My heart is pounding. It's like somebody has on the heart, and it's just twisting and sticking their fingers. And it's just, the heart's just doing terribly bad. Next thing you know, I pass out and I fall off a 30-foot cliff. Boom, I'm down to this canyon. I'm laying on a boulder, facing the sky. And my body's all twisted and everything. All of a sudden, I'm feeling nothing. And I'm going, oh, I've been here before, that feeling. I've been here before. And now I'm looking down at my body. Again, I have no eyes. I'm seeing the body, however I see a body. The consciousness is seeing it. I'm seeing my friend on the cliff, looking down at the body. He's up, I'm up to his level. Well, he can't hear me, of course. And I've been here. I've done this before. And again, I go, I'm not that body down there. He's this old 58-and-a-half-year-old man down there, all twisted and laying on this rock. And then all of a sudden on this rock, I see this large, very large. I say that because I have no idea what it was, but if you have a cobra crawling across your ankles, your calves, all of your legs, it's big. It's big in your mind. That's big. That's a big cobra. So it's crawling across me, and it wasn't fear; it was pure love. I had such an overwhelming love for that snake, this cobra snake. I mean, just overwhelming love, and all of a sudden, it was like paramedics going clear. Oh, like those paddles they get whatever defibrillators, right? And all of a sudden, I bounce up off the cliff. I start grabbing the snake and it's slithering and chasing through the things, and it goes into this little waterfall and gets a little cave behind it. And I'm staring at it. I'm just going, I love you. I love you. But I also realized at that moment, I realized this is 50 years later. 50 years later after the first near death to the day. I don't know about the hour because it's time difference. So it was like, no, this is the time. It's probably the same exact hour, half a world apart. So I was unaware of the meaning of a cobra. It was an Indian, the cobras. It was symbolism of the Kundalini energy, the spine. Lord Shiva has one wrapped around. I didn't know any of this stuff. So anyway, I'll cut this near-death experience down because it's a lot more involved. It was brutal. It was lost. And I finally, being a typical guy, I don't go to the doctors. Once I revived, you'd think the first thing I'd do when I got back to civilization, I'd go get checked out, right? Because I had a heart attack full. Months later. Anyway, so I'm continuing my journey in India. I'm in the desert. Go from the Himalayas down mountain to desert. And I go to this hill where this guru was sitting up on this hill, the sun god guru. I went up there and he gave me a lei, made a flower leaf. And that's where I was attacked by this 28-year-old guy, a loincloth on my leg, claiming I was his guru and I had to let him go. And he'd been searching for me in treatment and he was there waiting for me. So I taught him a technique and told him, go. There, take a bottle of water. And so I'm coming down, and there's a little old lady sitting in this plaza cobblestones, and she's got a basket, big basket of cobras, 5, 6, 7 of them. And she's beating it with a piece of bamboo. So they're all getting mad. And all these little bodies are coming up, several feet high. And I run over there because I'm mad at her for doing that to the cobras. She's trying to get him angry so people would come and want to see her cobras. So I run over and I found myself standing over the basket. Basket's between my legs. And these cobras are coming up all around me. And I'm waving my arms. I'm yelling at her loud, making all the wrong gestures you make when you're around a snake. Move. So it wasn't coming. And then next thing you know, one comes up and it starts circling around my stomach. It's under my shirt. Wraps around it. Cobra wrapped around my stomach. Boom. And then one comes up my arm, wraps 3, 4 times around my neck. It comes out like this. And I turn around and I see these 2 fangs, big fangs here. And I guess I got little fangs below, but I'm seeing these fangs in front of me. And all of a sudden my eyelashes going from the tongue of the cobra. And I just get mesmerized. Me and this cobra just stare at each other. His mouth is open. I'm looking through the cobra. I'm looking inside this cavern of darkness. It was like a secret cave. I'm just looking at it. I'm just consciously going inside this cave. 5 minutes, 8 minutes. I have no idea how long. It's just me and the cobra. And he's about 3/4 of an inch from my eyeball. Could have just picked the eye, right? I felt so loved. I felt so much love and peace with a cobra wrapped around my neck and a cobra wrapped around my stomach and a basket full all around my crotch and everywhere else, you know. Everywhere else, the way everybody got afraid, I got all these cobras on me. And I never felt so loved other than a near-death experience. But it was like, it felt love. It felt like I was honored by this snake, these snakes. And I still don't understand. Right? So several years later, I went to an ashram. The guru gets me there and he goes, I got a special room for you. Got a special room for you. And he takes me to this room. All the rooms are devoid of any artwork. There's no artwork, no pictures, no nothing, statues, except for one room. And that room's a huge picture of Lord Shiva, the Cobra, on the side like this. And he goes, I thought you were like this. And he just points to the picture and I go, I got it. You know, the symbolism. So that whole experience of the Kundalini energy and everything was all part of that.
Who's the Shiva that you mentioned?
Well, okay, go to the trilogy. I talk Shiva, Brahma, whatever the other one is. There's one's the destroyer, one's represents. So three aspects of God. In the Bible, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. But it's a different level. Lord Shiva is like the Hindu god of destruction. He destroys karma. He destroys worlds. So it's, and you can get into Shiva stuff and Shiva stuff. I wasn't sure about, I didn't know where that was going or anything, because to me, everything really gets down to basically it's all one. Go back to one. You know, this guy believes in this and that guy. To me, it's all one. But there was this thing with Lord Shiva and with the Cobra ribs energy there. And then you see statues of Buddha, you know, with a cobra over his head, shooting him from the sun. You know, the cobra's a big deal there. It's all representative for the energy. And so when my many trips to India was always energy. All
So
right.
you said on the rock that you had when you'd fallen that 30 feet and you were laying there and your body was mangled, that you felt yourself gather energy and it felt like two paddles coming out and then you jumped off of the rock. And that reminded me very much of what you described with the energy activation with your little poodle when you were reviving that poodle. Do you think you were harnessing the same thing in both of those instances?
They were both predicated on power of love. My power of love for the snake. I wasn't even loving me. It was loving the snake. I wanted to grab it. Felt a part of it. So yeah, I'm sure somebody can find symbolism and all that and come to better answers. But that was kind of, you know, what's interesting was when I had that first near-death experience, we'll regress there a little bit. Besides seeing the future, I kept seeing two numbers, 59 and 29, tumbling through all these images. And at the time, I thought, well, am I going to die at 29 or 59 or something? You know, are those significant dates? And somebody tried to tell me, well, that's the return of Saturn, you know, every 29 years and then 59 years, return of Saturn. I'm going, I don't know about that. But what's interesting was 28, 29, I felt like I went through a death. I had a rainbow body experience. I left my body, death-like experience. It was like a spiritual death and rebirth. And then at 58 and almost 59, right? Because I'm going back to, it was eight and a half, you know, in the hospital. But 50 years later, I'm 58, going on 59. By the time I go to the doctor with another heart attack, I got back to America. Well, doctor asked me, he says, my God, you're having a real heart attack. And I go, yeah, I'm having a heart attack. So it's like, and then I complained. I go, what kind of deal is this? He says, I'm a vegetarian for 50, 60 years. I'm exercise. I don't do booze. I don't do drugs. I don't do caffeine. I don't do nicotine. I don't do none of this stuff, coffee, tea, nothing, right? And the doctor looks at me and he says, he has my medical chart. He says, Mr. McDonald, he says, looking at your medical chart, if you'd come to me earlier, he says, I would have told you were lucky to be 29 years old. He says, you should have been dead. I mean, you got your heart and all this stuff. He says, and now he looks at the thing, he says, now you're just a couple weeks away from 59. So now I'm thinking, 29, I didn't die, but now maybe 59, just a couple weeks away, So that was the other number. So he tells me, yeah, you should have been dead at 28, let alone going on 59. So those two numbers kind of came in. And what's interesting was I had a high school friend that was born in the same hospital, same day, hour difference. He was born in San Francisco, in the same hospital I was. And we met each other 40 miles south of San Francisco in Sunnyvale in school many years later. And we figured, we were born the same day, birthday, same couple hours, right? Same hospital. And our parents were, our brothers were thinking that we were at cribs next to each other. Wow. So it was kind of cool, right? So I thought, if there's anything true about astrology, because it's pretty close to my astrological chart, right? I wanted to check on them. So we were I got contacted by my high school alumni every year. They go, who would you like to meet the next year? Well, we'll make sure we tell if they're coming. I said, well, this guy named Paul O'Brien. They go, Paul died. So that's just before I went through my heart surgery. I find this out and I'm going, he died. He didn't make 59. But he drank, he smoked, he gambled, he did drugs, he, all that stuff, right? And I thought to myself, same astrology, same birth chart, basically, but each towards a different path. When I got out of the hospital, I became a vegetarian. I didn't drink, I didn't do never did drugs, never did any of that stuff. Because I knew, because I kept thinking, 29, maybe I got to take care of my body, right? And so I took care of my body, so I made it past 29.
Wow.
Anyway, so.
And then you had a third near-death experience. I think it is this, but all of them are interesting, but this one might be my favorite.
So if you got time for this, the listeners get time.
Yes, we've got time for this. If you have time for it.
Go to the bathroom, take a break, come back.
No, I don't need a break.
This one defies. I mean, my first one, seeing 50 years in advance, was unique. The second one was brief. Okay, all right, you're in and out, it's no big deal. This one was totally something else, a whole different energy, a whole different feel. And I have to set it up with something I had done in 2010. 2010, I'm in an ashram in India. And the guru comes to me one day and says, B, it's time for you to get a naughty palm leaf reading. You know what he was talking about. I'm thinking palm reading, maybe read my hand, palm leaf reading. What is? I said, I'm fortune telling. I got a good idea what I'm having in my life. He said, no. I said, I don't believe in this stuff. He says, it doesn't matter what you believe. It believes in you. And you have information you need to find out. So he says, I'm ordering you to go. So I go down, if you ever had one done, but naughty palm leaves. Because I asked questions. I go, well, what do they do? They said, well, they take your thumbprint. Right thumbprint if you're a man, left if you're a woman. They just find your chart, your thumbprint. There's 108 different deviations of imprints, the lines and stuff. But out of that, there's variations. But there's, like you got 12 zodiac signs, you got 108 signs for the thumb. Makes sense, right? So you got 108 different personalities and stuff based just on the print. So I'm going, it's not sounding like this is going to be very successful. I'm not a believer. I'm really, even though a lot of things happen and I trust what happens, I'm really cynic on other stuff going. So I do a little further questions on it, and I ask, and he goes, I said, when were these things written? He says, well, between 2,500 before Jesus now, 2,500,000 years ago, these rishis, these great spiritual gurus, they channeled people as people's lives from the future. And so it could have been 100 years later, 500 years, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years later. They wrote all these things. And they had a scribe, they would channel this information. A scribe would carve it on a palm leaf. They take a palm leaf, the solid part, take the fronds off it, and they would carve in what this guy said. This person's boom, 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 is destined to do this. And they would shellac it, and they would store it. And every few hundred years, somebody would redo it because it would start to decay. So there could be some changes because interpretations. But for the most part, it's pretty much intact. So I'm telling the guy, I says, okay, Guru, so I'm going down here to get a reading somebody did 5,000 years ago on me. Using just my thumbprint, and they're going to tell me what I need to know. And he goes, yes. And it's all true. Okay, fine. So I go because he orders me to go. And I said, okay. So I go down there, but I also didn't know that if you get one of these readings done, you have to find your leaf. And there's like 20, 30 places in India at least that these leaves could be stored. Libraries, people's homes, churches, temples, caves, wherever. And so somebody has to go find it. And there's millions, apparently. So, and if you go get it done now professionally, you go in and they take all the information. It could be 6 weeks, 6 months, a year. They're still looking for it, or they never find it. So I didn't know any of that. I figured the gurus told me to go out and get it done, so I was going to sit down until I got it. I just sit down. After I got the thumbprint, 2 hours later, they bring me into a room and they bring out this, looks like Venetian blinds, and they ask you about 30 to 40 questions. If any of those answers are no, it's not you. And they set it aside. And so they get to about the 7th one of these leaves, and the guy that's doing the reading he says, intuitively, I believe this is your leaf. And then they give you information, you confirm your first name starts with, your first name's 4 letters long. And I'm going, well, I never go by William. I only go by Bill. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll say yes. So I said yes to that. And it starts with B. I'm going, okay, Bill, all right. And then they go, and it's Bill. All right, okay. And then he goes, and your father's name was, meaning he's dead, exactly the same as yours. I'm Junior. So my father's senior is exactly the same. It goes, and your mother's name, and they had trouble pronouncing it, Marcella. And then they go, and your wife's name is Carol. And then she graduated, one of the best universities in the United States, which I said, yeah, I don't know, it's University of California, Berkeley. I don't know that. Back then it was top 3, so I figured out. And then you got 2 children, a boy and then a girl. It just went this list of stuff, right? Boom, 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 boom. You're currently writing a book about your guru. Yeah. And to tell you that this is the time you're supposed to come in, this is a piece of information that will confirm that. And if this is not correct, then it doesn't matter about the rest of the stuff being right. It's not the right time to get it. I said, okay. He says, you currently, meaning very recent, like a few weeks, worked on a movie, but not as an actor. And he says, we're saying movies. He says, this thing says a play, because they didn't have movies back then. He says, but intuitively, I'm thinking, you worked on a movie. And I go, yeah. Just 3 weeks before, I worked on rewriting an ending of a movie. And gave it a whole new meaning. Paid the money, and it was really great. We got to use Bob Dylan and Bursting sing some music catalog, put a couple songs in the movie. It was really great. Nobody at the ashram, nobody in India knew about it. So that's it. And that just happened 3 weeks before. I mean, if I got this reading the year before, wasn't good. If I got the reading next year, wasn't good. This was when I was supposed to come in. So I'm okay. And then they go, and your birthday is, I'm going, okay, March 16th, 1946. They don't even say, I think. They say, your birthday is. Affirmative. Here it is. And I'm going, that's pretty good, because people at the ashram didn't know my birthday was. Nobody knew my birthday was. And they said, but we're confused about what hour you were born or what minute you were born. I go, what do you mean? Because, well, we're not exactly sure. We figure you were born between 1:05 and 1:25 a.m. What they didn't know was when I was born at the hospital, doctor wasn't there. So they kind of held me in, half in, half out, and said for the doctor. So the doctor get paid for the delivery. And by the time the doctor get there, doctor says, well, what time is this kid born? They go, I don't know, between 1:05 and 1:25. Nobody wrote it down. So the doctor took a stab and said, I don't know, 12, 1, 10 or something. And that's the exact time. Then we're going to take a guess on 2. Well, we're going to assign you 110. It's exactly what's on my birth certificate. But they didn't know that. And they had trouble finding that, even though the doctor didn't know that and had trouble figuring it out and came up with the time. So I thought that was interesting. So then I thought that was, they asked a few more questions. I answered yes. And then they go, ask you one more question. And I go, well, okay, great. I pulled him on wall. I was going to pay him for the reading. But that's not the reading. That's just so we get your index card. I'm going to read your past and future and your present. 6 hours later, I'm upstairs and they go into a past life. And the past life is not necessarily your last one, but one that's affecting you today. And the past life they went into, I was a senior head monk, a ashram, what's now Sri Lanka, under the guru that was at his ashram. And wow, I did something at the ashram because the guru asked for these guys to tell me my worst sin in past life. So I'm expecting all kinds of stuff, right? Because there was other people that had their reading and they were crying because the guru asked them to ask for the last sin. Somebody cut somebody's head off, burned somebody up. My worst sin. So worst sin was I was a celibate, and there was a beautiful woman there at the ashram. I fell in love with her, only mentally, didn't do nothing, had planned to do nothing, but just had the thought, that'd be nice, I love her. That was it. The guru saw that in my mind, kicked me out, and I put a curse on my mind. I wandered until the end of that lifetime. According to the reading, where I bathed in the Ganges River and I get up, and there's a blaze of light, and Lord Shiva is standing in front of me, and a rainbow, and I just leave in a rainbow body. And according to the reading, every lifetime they could go back to, 20, 30, 40, whatever they could find, every lifetime I've left in a rainbow body, same exact way. Makes a great story. I have no idea if it's true or not, but
we'll find out.
I'll come back and tell you. All right.
Well, Bill, this is interesting because you said about your 8-year-old self, you were blessed with the opportunity to live a monk-like life. And then you find out all these years later that was your past life.
Yeah, obviously. And much more on that, which is another whole subject. So there I was. Then they go into, and this is leading to the next near-death experience, but I'm going someplace with this. So hold the horses. All right. Stay tuned, children. There's more to follow. All right. So I'm told that life is done. I don't have any questions about it. They go, okay, well, I'd give you some things that are going to happen to you this lifetime you need to know about. Because it pretty much told me everything that happened before I walked in there. They had my whole life. Boom. In Vietnam. They knew everything. I was like, wow. Okay. So now I'm more prepared now to kind of believe the predictions a little bit. But the predictions were kind of wild, crazy. One of the predictions I was going to have some encounters with Babaji and special things. I was getting a blessing and everything. And then I was, the following year, I was supposed to come back to India and travel to this temple in southern India, where there's a Shiva temple. Then I was supposed to show up there, and there'd be a hill off to the side. And I would walk up this hill for 4 hours, whatever it took. And I'd be walking up the top of this hill. And at the top of this hill, all the great Rishis, all the guys that wrote these things, the Rishis, 18 of them, right? The Rishis would be waiting for me, sitting on logs and around a fire and rocks and stuff. And yet I would have no questions. There was nothing I didn't know that wasn't within me. So I had no questions. So that's what I was told about that. That's really crazy. And then they gave more predictions on that. I thought, okay, fine. So the next year, I go back. I'm in Germany. I give a workshop. I have a heart attack, but I don't say that to nobody. I get on the airplane. I fly to India. I'm introducing this guru to 3, 4, 5,000 people at all these big events he's doing. And then after I introduced him, I have a heart attack and I collapse in the ER. And I come back to America, flew back. I'm in the hospital. I'm having quadruple bypass surgery. Okay, now we're skipping all that. There's some stories in there, but we're skipping right to that. I'm laying on this. I'm naked. I'm laying on a thin sheet. I don't know what it was, but it was like almost zero. It was like nothing. And it's cold. You can see the cold air because these guys are all, they don't want any heat in the room because they're opening up the chest and they're going to stop my heart. They're going to stop my lungs. And so I'm curious. I said, well, before you start this, I kind of know what you guys are going to do. Right? I mean, and he says, I'm going to rip your chest open. This guy was really good with this bedside manner. He shows me these tools, he's going to cut. And then he's got like bolt cut. It looked like you were pruning a tree, those pruning shears. And I'm going to cut the rib. I'm going, really? And he's got to stretch it. They're going to stretch the rib cage open. He says, and then we're going to cut this artery. We're going to cut, and he goes through this whole thing. And then eventually we're going to stop your heart and stop your lungs and put you on a heart and lung machine. It's going to be pumping in oxygen. So he says, actually, you're going to be kept alive by machines. Yeah, we got to kill you first before we can. And he thought that was funny. And I'm going, don't tell that to a man like that. We're getting ready to get cut up. I'm going, what? And I go, well, am I going to feel anything? And he says, well, 2 to 5% of the people kind of say they feel something. The disease kind of wears off, but don't worry about it. It's only a few people. All right. So then I count backwards. We're going to get into the experience. So he gets from 100 to about 95 or 6 or something. And boom, it's total darkness. Boom. And next thing I know, I'm in the light. I mean, I'm not naked anymore. I have clothes on. I'm standing at Shiva's temple. The exact time I was predicted to be there. I thought when I had the heart attack and left, I go, well, so much for that prediction. It can't happen because I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be in a hospital. Well, I'm in a hospital in Sacramento, California, and yet a body occupied looks exactly like me. It's a body is standing in this cobblestone square, this courtyard right in front of the Shiva temple. And I look over and I see this hill and I see walk up the hill and I go, what I got to lose? I got 8 hours of operation surgery. Don't want to walk uphill. And people are bumping into me and I feel the light. I feel the heat. I'm sweating. I'm actually in a physical way. And once in a while I can feel like hands and instruments in my, if I think about the operation, only when I think about it, I can kind of feel a sense of something going on in this body.
You gave me full chills when you said that.
Yeah, so it's like, but it's 2 separate things. So there's the naked mason getting cut up, being sustained, life-sustaining on electrical pumps, pumping blood and oxygen. But I'm not there. Not there at all. So I walk up this hill, several hours, I get to the top. And there At the top of the hill, there's a fire. And there's 18 Rishis. The weird hair looks like Jamaica, all the weird braids and weird stuff. And I walk in there, got a word exchanged. I'm at home, like, yeah, okay, I've been here, done it. This is exactly what I was expecting. And then all of a sudden I turn around and there's the guru that sent me for the reading. He's there too. Oh, this is interesting. And he looks at me and he says, you can skip a beat, but don't give a part. I go, what? He said, you can skip a beat, but don't give a part. So I'm sitting there just enjoying this peace, this bliss. And all of a sudden, there's these clouds all over the sky. In this cloud, we talked about this earlier, people in the cloud, right? So these clouds open up. I hear a voice, a feminine voice. Seems to me, what's interesting is for all us macho guys or even for women, when you hear the voice of angels, it's always, I'm sorry. It works for me. It's always this divine, beautiful young named princess, queen, goddess thing. I don't know what it is, but it's like, it just makes, it feels right. It's like, oh, it's the voice. It's the voice of this goddess lady, this angel, right? And she goes, just give up your heart. Let it go. You don't owe anybody anything. There's no karma. You don't have to do anything for anybody. I promise you peace, love, no pain, no suffering, long vacation, bliss, joy. Just goes on. Go, well, I'm ready to go, man. Because my body's so beat up and everything. I'm ready. I'm going. Sounds good. So the guru guy, remember him? He goes, you could skip a few beats, but don't give apart. Well, what? She just offered me peace, love, bliss. What are you going to offer? And he goes, I'm offering you more pain and suffering than you ever had in your entire life. You'll have to learn pain again, like real people. Because before then, I'm going to dentist, they're going to drill the nerve. I just say, I need no shit. Just do it, right? I sit there. I tune out, right? Just. But after this event, I had to learn something. I had to learn to deal with this real people. Whole different world. I didn't realize people had pain like that. Anyway, so he's telling me he was going to promise me more pain and suffering. Well, what kind of sales pitch is that? She's offering me peace, love, bliss, comfort, joy, no pain. And you're selling me pain and suffering? What else you got? So he kind of does this, and the whole sky opens up. Now, remember my first near-death experience when we have clouds and I see the future. Now I'm seeing thousands of faces of men, women, old, young, Asian, black, Mexican, Arab, Japanese, doesn't make it all over the world. And then some cats, some dogs, and a few birds, a few animals, small animals. Really? I see all these. And they just said, if you don't come back, even though you don't owe any of these people no karmic connection, amen. If you don't come back, none of these people will get what you're teaching and what you're gifting. The love, the healing, the blessing, teaching forgiveness. They will miss. But you're not obligated. But if they don't come back, all these people miss the message. And then all of a sudden, the paddles, they're reviving me at the other side. It's restarting the heart. Chest is still open. There's tubes everywhere. The machine is still on. But they revive the heart. And yet, the first thing I hear, after I feel all this great pain, is the voice of the anesthesiologist and the surgeon talking. And the anesthesiologist is, hey, doc, he says, I think the patient is feeling anesthesia anymore. I think it's worn off. And the doctor goes, it's only been another 40 minutes. It's all not bloody. Let it go. And I'm hearing this. I got my eyes taped shut. strapped in this thing. I got a big tube, down your throat, I can't say nothing. I can't even give him a blinky blinky. And inside I'm going, hey, I feel everything. I feel the wrapping wires around my ribs to hold them together. I'm feeling the staples in the chest. I'm feeling it all. I'm in worst pain I've ever felt my entire life. I was just, I'm going, my God, I must be back. Promise me pain and suffering. But this is ridiculous, right? It's right away, right? So then things just keep going bad. Normally in America, when you're in HMO and you're getting a surgery, you go, we have 4 days in house, kick you out, go home. Now it's 4 days pre-surgery, ICU, and I was almost a month after 5 blood transfusions, and I was getting worse every day. Every day I took a nap and went to sleep or closed my eyes, I'd be instantaneously back on having that conversation again. Don't give up heart. You can skip a few beats. Don't give up heart. And seeing all the faces again and again and again and again. Yet I still wanted to give up. I'm going, pain was so bad. Having 5 blood transfusions later, I'm not doing good at all. So then they're taking me out 10:30 in a gurney to get emergency procedure done after 4 weeks. And the phone rings next to the bed. I make him wait. Pick it up, and I hear this voice. Pete, this is Gornoff in India. Like I said, yeah, I know so many. I'm glad you narrowed it down. He goes, you could skip a few beats, but don't get my part. I go, what? What'd you say? You could skip a few beats, but part. And I made him say it 3 times. Because that's exactly what was being said to me every day. And then he goes, because I'm still getting rid of the cash. And then he goes, Peter, I just sent 100 people up to the temple to pray for you. I told them I was going to heal you. Don't embarrass me. In other words, don't die. Embarrass them. Make them alive. Okay. Die. Embarrass this guy. So I'm out a few days later. But before I get out, there was another prediction I told you at Babaji. There was multiple Babaji things. This was Babaji was going to come in and everything. So I'm laying in bed. I look up and it's like a crystal bowl, like a crystal bowl over my bed of energy. It's just energy. And I couldn't see anything else like this energy. And I look at the end of the bed, there's Babaji. No shirt, long hair, no shoes. But he's got Levi's on. This is in America, right? He's visiting the hospital. So he's there, and he's at the end of the bed, which is 7 feet away from my head, right? But his hand is coming up, and he's pouring oil, a couple of different kind of oil and water on my hand. He's tapping, and he's chanting this strange language. And I'm just feeling blissed out, and I'm going, I'm probably drugged up or something. It's probably not real, but I'll enjoy it. It's nice. So I get home from the hospital a couple of days later, and my daughter comes over and says, hey, Dad, our old neighbor, David, he visited the hospital. Stay there, check out. Before. I said, no, I didn't. She says, oh, yeah, he was there. He said he walked into the room, and he says, he looked over, and he had some young Indian guy with no shirt on, no shoes on, with long black hair, pouring stuff on, chanting some crazy language. He started to laugh, and he didn't want to embarrass you, so he left. Told my daughter. He didn't even know what he was looking at. He saw it, which verified it. I only talk about Babaji experiences, a witness or something, or somebody's verified it. That's one of those things. So that was the prediction. That was my 3rd near-death experience. And it's much deeper.
Wow.
Much deeper and much leveled, and so many more layers.
Wow. Bill, so for people who have never heard of Babaji, will you please explain the enlightened being that he is in whatever human words you can use to explain him? Because people all over the world have had encounters with him.
There's even a debate at the highest levels on exactly who, what, where, because there's no him or there's no lot of information. because depending on what camp he come to, somebody says he was born and then he's still living and he's had multiple lifetimes. Then there's other people said he was never born, that he's always been here since the beginning of time, and the world is his creation he's looking after. He's got 144,000 helpers at the beginning while we're creating life here, and they're going to be at the end. 144,000 souls will be at the end to help him as well. So that's at the other level of people about Babaji. I look at Babaji as this great avatar, not just an avatar. Avatar would be somebody like Krishna or somebody. He's taught these other guys. He's at this level that's there's no way to rank it, no way to describe. So who he is still a major mystery. I've had four major encounters with him that I'm allowed to talk about.
Because those 4 were ones that had witnesses and the other ones you've had did not. So just can you give me the number of how many total encounters that you can't talk about?
End of story. So when something happens at certain levels, it is so sacred.
Mm,
Words
I understand.
hitting it is bad enough. But I was given permission to share 4, and so I've had 4 unique experiences with Babaji that I do talk about public because people know about him.
Would you mind telling us of 1 or 2 of the other ones?
Well, one's silly.
Okay. Well, I love that he has a sense of humor. Why not? We're still human, right?
Let's start with that. I'm in India at this ashram, 2009, and the guru goes to 12:30 o'clock in the morning, and we're just a handful of people sitting around this campfire. We start telling spooky stories. Oh, what scares you? It was a kind of rock star. Alcohol and drugs did him in, but he gave it up, got a new life. And he was talking about when his drugs and alcohol, demons would visit him. Crazy stuff happened. It scared him and everything. This other lady was talking about true stories of ghosts in her family and some really neat stories. And they're all just spooked out, right? And I'm going, and this is at an ashram. I go, nothing scares me. Boldly never challenge the universe, never challenge the divine. This is not a dueling match, nothing scares me. I'm trying, don't ever say that. So I'm going to my bungalow and it's all dark and everything. I got a flashlight. I'm the only one. I open the door, sitting on my Babaji himself, sitting cross-legged on my bed, just on the blankets. With the eyes, though, the eyes are like shooting like lasers. It's like right at me. Right? I'm going, and my heart's going boom, boom, boom. And I got a flashlight. 2001 Space Odyssey. If you ever watched the movie and the apes are throwing up the bones, and my flashlight's doing that, spinning on the ground. And my daughter gave my flashlight, my heart's going boom, 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 boom. I just totally went, nothing scares me. Right? And I shine the light into it, fades away, right? And I'm going, thank God nobody saw it. My secret, nothing scares me. So I'm walking the next morning to breakfast, and I hear these little footsteps behind me. It's the guru, 5'4", and he goes, "Being, I thought those things weren't supposed to scare you." What? So then he made me at the breakfast there tell everybody what happened and share it. So he says, "Yeah, we know." And then the other time, it happened twice. Recently, if you've been watching my newer videos, you notice that this nose has been cut off 3 times. It's been gone. This is rebuilt from my shoulder.
Wow.
Real. Anyway, so I get it cut off. I just got a big hole in my face. Edges over, blood, everything. And I come home and they tell me, "Oh, you're in terrible pain, Well, but I didn't want to take any pain pills. Cry to Babaji and works. But I go to bed that night. The next morning, I'm scheduled early in the morning for plastic surgery to rebuild the nose. And I'm laying in bed about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's the bewitching hour. That's what they call the Shiva hour, the dream hour, the meditative hour, the God hour that defines the divine time. There's a lot of names for it. But between 3:45 and 4:30 is a lot of magic happens. If you ever want to meditate at the perfect time, four-ish, okay? So I'm laying there and all of a sudden the room lights up and I got bandages all over one eye and my nose. So I got one eye open. And the whole room lights up like the sun is in my room. And it was actually behind that bookshelf there's a wall. And on the other side of that, there's a room, and that's where I was staying that night. So it's just behind this bookshelf, it's Babaji. So this kind of setting the stage here. So I'm looking at this wall, and the wall is about 8 feet tall, and it's about 8 feet across. This blazing sun, like an orb. It's just the light is coming. Just beautiful. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that sun, a naked arm comes out all the way to the shoulder, comes right out of the wall. It covers my face. That's going to get operated on. And instantaneous love. It was like being hugged by 1,000 Italian grandmas. It was just beautiful. So at peace. And I didn't get excited. It was like, yeah, okay, I knew this was going to happen. It was like, how about that excited? Just like, yeah, fine. I mean, most people, you got to realize if you get excited, it's going to go boom, it's going to disappear, it's gone. That's why most people don't see things, because just as they start, they don't even get a memory of what they actually started to see, because they're already get too excited. It changes your energy field. You can't see anything. Simple as that. So your frequency has to be high, but you also have to be receptive where you don't get excited. It has to be. This happens every day. So it comes, it does, boom. So I go to the surgery, and the surgeon comes out and talks to my wife, and she asks him, what you're going to do to me. He says, well, we're going to cut the forehead down to a V, down to here, leave it attached here. Take that and flip it over, take some of his ear, some bone, do a bunch of different pieces. We're going to rebuild this, then we're going to sew this forehead onto there and make a couple of holes, do all this stuff. And he had graph paper lined out with all these squares, how he was going to do it. He says, I've been doing this for 30 some years, and this is how I do it. I spent 2 hours making this graft here. And then once that's done, then you got no skin here in the forehead, of course, it's got to grow back. And then you got a hump here where it's attached. Then you got to go in a couple months later and cut the hump, redo surgery. Then you got about 6 surgeries. So the wife goes, okay, fine. So anyway, so I come out of surgery, and I see her, bandages all over my face. And she looks at me and looks at me. She says, I want to see the doctor. And I'm like, oh my God, what did they do, right? So the doctor comes out and says, why did you do what you said you were going to do? Because the forehead was nothing. Didn't touch the forehead at all. Didn't cut the ears. And he says, well, you know what's really weird? He says, I've been doing this operation for 31 years. It's the first time I've ever inspired to do something different. He says, I decided to cut his shoulder and take all the material I needed from his shoulder. And we just made it from the shoulder. And I was happy. I didn't have no other. I said, that's good. I don't need no follow-up. I don't want no follow-up. Just let it. That's good. So I said, okay. But I've had cut it off twice since then. That's not the story. So anyway, so I get sewn up. I got about 68, 80, 100 stitches or more. And then he gives me a big bottle of pills, oxys. Oh, this could be painful. I go, no, I don't think so. At 4 o'clock the next morning, the exact same occurrence happened. The wall lit up, the hand comes out and covers me. And I'm just blissed out. 10 days later, after the surgery, I go in to get stitches out. And the doctor's cussing and swearing, he's pulling it. And what's wrong? He says, I've never seen this. Like, what? He says, all your stitches, the skin has grown over all the stitches. New skin had grown over. All the stitches were covered with skin. So you had to cut the skin to get the stitches out. So I never seen anything like it. A couple of weeks later, I went to a wedding. Hey, where the Cobra was invited. It was in Napa Valley. And I'm sitting at the table. I'm not saying nothing. And he looks over and he says, "The way, Bill." There's all these people, his people that were sitting there. And he goes, "You know, the other day when you had the visitor," he says, "that was the big boss." He calls the big boss, Babaji. "That was the big boss. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't a dream. Was it your imagination? It was more real than real." And all the people heard it, of course, then tell the story. So I got found out again. So those three I talk about. There's some other stuff. People I've seen, like Siwa Teshwar and other notable people. But see, I've always been visited by the great ones. Just like my grandson. My youngest grandson has the same thing. He's all kinds of visits from Babaji. Everybody come visit when he was little. He'd come and point these pictures. "Oh, yeah, he was there last night with me." And he'd show me stuff that he learned. Where'd you get that from? So he was being taught every night. But that's another whole story for another day. So anyway, so that's basically the three experiences. But you can see when people say they want me to talk about it, because I cut those as short as I could. They're really abbreviated tales. And that's why in my new book I'm working on, I'm thinking devoting about half the book to tell them that story again, because I haven't really done them justice. I give them a couple pages. But I think I really need to share the wealth of that, because there was so much there. And they're so different than other people's. It's not like, "Oh, I learned something, so now I'm changed." And I get tired of people saying, "Oh, now that I'm enlightened." Enlightening is a process. It's always happening. Degrees. You're not, if you're really enlightened, I'm not even going to see you. You're gone. You're absorbed. You're with the one again, But there's stages of enlightenment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Bill, I am so grateful to have had this conversation and to learn all of the backstories behind this. And I think you did an amazing job of not just condensing them, but then adding all of the pertinent details that make these so unique. And I would imagine that there are people, before I'm even saying this, who are online looking you up, trying to figure out how they can work with you. And one of the things I was very impressed about is that you put together workshops, not for thousands of dollars, not for hundreds of dollars. As a matter of fact, you lose money doing this, because not only are you giving your time, but you're renting these facilities and you're not charging people anything to attend them. And I don't hear about this. This isn't common.
No, it's I'm going back to England to work with this foundation, and they asked me how much I want for my airfare, and I go, "Somebody wants to donate something when I get there, great, but I don't want anybody to attend. I don't want no suggested donation price. I want them to sit there. If they don't feel like giving anything, I don't want them to feel guilty, because there's a lot of times I attend stuff and I don't really give that. I don't have, you know what I mean? So it's like I put myself in their place. I want to get everything I'm doing. It's not a job. It's not a profession. I'm giving it away, but I am training people. I'm training people in what I'm doing to carry on and teach them about self-love and self-forgiveness and gratitude. And so next year, starting in 26, I will be having a lot online, but I will eventually do retreats where you come, you check in, you pay your own hotel. If you want to sleep in your car, I don't care. I mean, I don't want there to make money for the hotel, but so I try to do everything as cheaply as possible. I mean, if I could do it at a campground, I would, but it's like I need people to spend time with me. I mean, Zooms work good, but spending time with me, they get the energy that I got to give them. It's a whole different thing when I do hands-on them or eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
So it is what it is. So that's what I'm doing. I'll be in Europe this year. I've been invited back to Prague, doing some stuff there, and I'm doing some stuff in England. And
Tell us a little bit about the books that you have, because this is the movie version of your story, of your experience. There's always so much more detail in a book.
all right, this is my newest memoir, I Remember Tomorrow, which is, I wrote it after the COVID, right? Because it was giving up hope, and I have hope. So it's actually a double meaning. You know, I remember tomorrow, everything's gonna be okay. But also literally, I remember tomorrow. So that one's out. But I got two books that are memoirs. Yeah, okay. There we go. Warrior, Spiritual Odyssey, and Alchemy of a Warrior's Heart. So those kind of follow my life. And they're all chocked with stories, because to me, stories is the best way to teach. And then if you look up here, I got Cosmic Chronicles, which is essays, spiritual essays, which I kind of wrote, kind of channeled. And it's got all kinds of subjects. It's Sacred Verses is poetry. And of course, Prayers and Blessings. I wrote that because there's people out there that want to do a spiritual service of some kind, but they don't want dogma. They don't want to be identified with this religion or that religion. So I wrote that for people to use. It doesn't identify with anybody. It's just God, you and God, love. So simple prayers, blessings for all kinds of occasions. And I thought that
Wow.
was going to be a throwaway book. I did that. I thought, well, I'll sell it to a couple people. That was a number 30 on the Amazon chart for a couple days. So number 30.
That's impressive. Congratulations.
And then it dropped down to, I don't know, 258 or something.
It doesn't matter. It was there.
But it sold pretty good. I thought that's really amazing. So I got all these stories of me, and you notice I got lazy with my designs of my books. All the new books got a photo because it's just easier, and then these got like this is kind of that's Machu Picchu.
Oh, beautiful.
I don't normally see.
So pretty.
This one, Alchemy, that's composite of something I dreamed.
Oh, wow.
Three different pictures put together. And then the back of the book, of course, Shambhala, and the owl, and then you see.
I have to ask you one more question before we go.
Yeah.
You said that you saw not only people and the faces of people over and over again in the clouds, but you also saw some animals and birds.
Oh, yeah.
Have you
Birds.
had deja vu since you've been back? Have you seen
Birds.
people and been like, oh my gosh, I recognize that person?
I never do that.
You don't.
Just go, yeah, I expect you to be here. Yeah, okay.
But you do recognize the person.
Everybody that comes. There's no strangers come to my events. Every one of them. So you think your free will led you there. And I'm trying to tell somebody, no, in 2011, I already knew you were going to be here. That's 14 years ago. So where's your free will? You were led.
Wow.
It's like,
Well, I was thinking when you were seeing all those people in the clouds, it wasn't just people who would come to your workshops, but it's probably all the people who are tuning in and watching a video like this.
all of them. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's all of them. And I'm also finding a lot of spiritual workers, as a switch. I'm calling them messengers. I'm trying to get people to get away from people calling themselves healers and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. I don't even call myself a healer, and I've had miracles at every single workshop. There's been a miracle of some kind.
wow.
It's happened. I mean, things happen. It's just the way it is. But I emphasize it's not Reverend Bill healing you, it's you. I empower them to be their own healer. I empower them to be their own guru. I empower them to be their own teacher. I empower them to find the God within themselves. And that's why I downplay me. I don't have a mailing list. I don't have an organization. You don't have to join nothing. It's like, no. And you self-nominate if you want to learn stuff. If you want to learn, if you think you want to come and learn what I'm doing, great. Self-nominate yourself. I'm not even doing that. It's like, if you feel if that's something you need to do, great. And if they're a professional healer of some kind already, well, continue your business, add this to it. If you want to charge, that's your business. I like people to be able to pay their rent and eat. But for me, I'm retired. I'm a disabled veteran. I got a postal pension. So between my war wounds, getting the money for that, and my post office money, I'm going. I fly myself around the world, and if I break even, I'm happy. If it costs me money, I'm happy. It doesn't change. I got one story on that though. I was in England last year, and this guy set it up for me. You could speak at the Quaker House downtown London, right? It was a real expensive neighborhood, and I'm only going to have like 2, 3 dozen people there, right? And I'm not charging, and it was like I don't know, 800-900 pounds an hour or something. I don't know, some crazy amount of money to rent this Quaker space. I go, holy cow, man. So all I said was, wow, that's a little steep. But I didn't say anything more. A few days later, the guy goes, oh, some members of the royal family picked it up. Don't worry about it. I said, okay, fine. So I never worry about it. I go out there. I'm always taken care of. Always. So that it's always taken care of. And I just trust. So.
Well, you're walking the walk and you're talking the talk because you are me and I am you. In the most literal sense of that.
You got it.
Well, Bill, I am so grateful. I want to thank you so much. Thank you for what you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now. And I know that you have tirelessly shared this story to make sure that people understand that love is all there is.
There ain't nothing else. So
nothing else.
This is a party metaphor. Because people, well, what are you doing? I'm saying, I'm just a messenger. In fact, I'm less than a messenger. I'm basically a bus driver. So, you know, a bus driver, you get on, they invite you on the bus because he's been to where you got to go. He knows where it's at, right? So I've been there where we got to go. You get on the bus. When the bus gets there, who gets off first? Not the bus driver. All the passengers get off before he does. And then the bus driver gets off. We are all safely there. So we all arrive together.
Well, I would get on any bus with you, and I want to thank everybody who's watching because without them, there would be no reason to do this. So thank you everybody for watching.
Goodbye.
This channel's for seekers, for hearts who remember there's something more. Subscribe to join the awakening.